Alright. How's it going, Lisa? I'm
Hey,
Alan.
Lisa. Hey, Joel.
This is Will Yeager.
In case you don't know yet.
So we're just gonna be doing our reflection, and I guess I'll start us off. So the question is, how's your experience living in the UK influence the way you see things? And I think this is a pretty obvious question because a lot of things are different here. For instance, like not even necessarily just the food and the culture, but like just the way people act, and like for instance, like I guess just bringing up the internship. Like I've been working at a remittance company called World Remit, and everything they do is just totally different from like the experience that I've had before. Like, would you guys say that's the same with your internships, or like?
Yeah, one of the things I noticed when I was doing my internship was I think I went up to like shake someone's hand and they were like, ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah.
And I was like, wait, I grew up learning all these Southern values and manners. I was not expecting people to cringe at just going up to shake a hand.
Definitely.
Yeah, they don't seem to place as much importance on like professionalism, at least
Right.
in my internship.
Yeah,
as
I
long
mean-
as you're like respectful to.
I saw someone at my place wearing jeans. Maybe that's just working at like a non-profit.
Yeah, I mean, I've been working in like finance, and like people don't dress up. Like I wear like a polo and khakis, and I'm like the most dressed up out of people. Like people are just wearing like t-shirt and jeans and stuff. And like I don't know if that's just the company culture that I work at, but like from talking to like you guys and talking to other people too, it seems like that's like the general gist.
It also reminds me of something that Reggie talks about in our international economics class.
Yeah.
Because he was, we had to read that story about the Germans versus the Brits when they're trying to merge a company.
Right.
And the Brits were like, oh man, the Germans, they take themselves way too seriously.
Right. It's like cultural differences, and I mean, clearly it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's not necessarily a good thing, but like it's just something that I guess even after 3 weeks, like there's still things that I'm like, oh, like I see myself doing that. I'm like, oh yeah, they would like even like walking on like the left side of the road. Like dude, I've messed that up so much. Like I'll just naturally walk on the right side of the road and just like
Or like the
be looking
sidewalk.
around.
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
just-
I always need to look down at the whenever I'm about
Look
to cross
which
to
way.
know which way to look. I
Yeah.
love that they have those painted on there, like look right, look left.
for sure.
I like the one-way streets though.
Oh,
Those are
yeah.
nice.
Those are
good.
Those are good. Alright, let's talk about some of our experiences then. So I guess we can just start with like the Much Ado About Nothing. So
Okay,
like,
sure.
do you think
That was
in the
so much
States
fun.
that was
really
so
fun.
do you think in the States if they had like more plays like that, do you think they'd be like as receptive as they are here, or do you think like the cultural differences like play into that?
I don't think it would be as successful. I think it could be if they threw in like Las Vegas or something. You know, it's like something
Yeah.
glitzy. But you know, like it's the fact that this is a very historical place.
Right.
You know, it's exactly where, or very close to where it used to be. I think
Right.
what was it?
Yeah.
Like
I think
500
it's
block?
like a couple
We went to the
minutes.
original location.
Yeah,
too.
I think part of it's like the pride of like Shakespeare's like place he originally was at,
And they're
the place
very
he originally
true
put
to
on.
that.
Yeah,
For sure.
I mean,
and so that makes it even more special in a way.
Yeah.
yeah, no, that's half of the thing is just the experience
The
of being there
experience, right.
rather than even seeing the show.
Yeah.
But so, why do you think like if they brought it to just because like the embodiment of like the UK is kind of like Shakespeare, if that makes sense? Like, do you think that plays into a role, or like why do you think it wouldn't be as
I mean-
successful in like?
Well, as Clive said about William Shakespeare in our theater class, you know,
Bill-
Shakespeare's a genius. No, I mean like
Also
he's.
known as Bill Wagglestaff, is what he said.
Oh yeah. He, you know, like he's considered, or Clive says he's the best writer ever in
Yeah.
any language whatsoever. So of course they're going to take a lot of pride
Yeah,
and
for sure, for
heritage
sure.
from that.
No,
It's
yeah,
kind of
I
like
mean,
us, you know, being like, come visit Monticello,
Right.
or Mount Vernon.
Right.
Mm.
And it's interesting because like since the States isn't nearly as old as like as the UK or whatever, it'll be interesting to see in like a couple hundred years like what that's kind of like in the States, if that makes sense. Like
Yeah.
what like national pride's there, because like I
Yeah,
can't
'cause we're
really
so
think
new.
of like one thing, you know.
Yeah, we can't go to 400-year-old
Right.
pubs in
Yeah.
America.
It's like I'm going to the Capitol building.
Which is kind of funny though, because sometimes I walk down the street and I see these really nice, like two-door buildings and stuff,
Yeah.
and I'm like, I don't know whether or not it's fake or it's
Right.
real,
Yeah.
Because, you know, I've always grown up with that shit just being fake.
Yeah.
Mhm.
With it just being copies of stuff. And so it's weird to go and
Definitely.
see these things and think, well, maybe these are actually so many years old.
Definitely.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to Thames River. That was pretty straightforward.
That was. I was really proud
That was
because
kinda
in
part
our
of the
in our
glow
art
experience,
history class,
yeah.
she was talking about how William Hogarth's father went to the debtor's prison, and she's like, "Who else did that?" And I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh, it was Charles Dickens," because we
Yeah.
learned about that on the walking
That
tour.
was
That was
cool.
nice.
All right.
It wasn't the area I expected it to be, though.
Day trip to Greenwich. Did you guys get? Am I saying that?
Greenwich?
Greenwich.
Yeah.
What are we taking away from that? Just experiences in the city. So yeah, how did we? So I mean, I guess the main thing I took away from that was like not necessarily even really anything about time and like space or whatever, but just like how when you like barely get outside of London, how like different it is, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
Because like
definitely.
not even necessarily culturally, but just like the way the city was set up. Like afterwards, we were walking around and like going through that market and stuff, and like it just seemed like the entire vibe of that area was like a totally
More
different,
small
like
town.
right, and like we didn't even travel like 20 minutes out, like I don't know exactly how far it was, but like it definitely wasn't like going from like DC to like a small like farm town or whatever, you know. But it's like even though it was right outside of London, like there's still so many vast differences from there and here.
Yeah.
What was funny to me is something along those lines, but I guess a little bit different because, you know, like that's where they used to stare at the stars, and now I think it's way too close to the city
Right.
to be able to even see very much.
Dude,
because
I was
of the
talking
I'm
to
not
Kevin.
saying
I was
it's
talking
all
to
good.
Kevin about that. Like, it doesn't really make sense that it's right next to one, right?
It must have
Normally in
been-
the States, it's like where's the big one, like New Mexico, right, or something?
I mean, I guess that's urban expansion.
yeah.
You know?
Yeah, maybe it was a lot clearer back in the day.
Yeah.
Well, I know we were reading in Tale of Two Cities. You know, the area of Soho used to be like more countryside and way less
That's crazy.
industrialized. So
And that was what 200 years ago.
yes, yeah, maybe
Yeah.
200 or 300.
2 or 3.
But yeah, I mean, I think it's like so. Part of what you were saying is like London's such like a mashup of just so many different
Right.
eras and stuff. Like you had
Right.
the original London that almost completely burned down from
Right.
the fire.
London.
And then you had the Roman London, and then also just
Like
like,
the city
buildings
of
that were
London or
destroyed
whatever.
during World War II
Yeah.
bombing.
I mean, that's so cool because, you know, like in America, we don't have that kind of history.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's like everywhere you
Exactly.
go, there's something. I think there was like a building nearby where it's like, oh, Mozart lived here for a few days.
Yeah.
And
Which
I'm
I don't
like,
know how
oh,
they
that's
know, but-
Yeah, like,
that's neat.
yeah, like- Alright, I guess lastly, and kind of going off to like how various areas are like so significantly different, going off our Liverpool trip. Like, and like, yeah, with that we can probably end it. Just like,
Liverpool.
what do you guys take away from that? I guess the one thing I definitely took away from that was like, I kind of expected Liverpool, just like from my understanding of before, like all this history and how it was like a big port city for a while. But like you go there and there's so many like modern like looking buildings. Like
Yeah.
when we went on the tour guide, that guy was saying about how it's like not necessarily a mashup, but just like so many like different styles like coming together almost.
The UNESCO World Heritage Site on one
Right.
side, and then on the other side we have this brand new mall,
Right.
and they're going to be building all these other things.
So that was weird to me because like if you go to cities in the States, it's like they majority carry the same kind of theme, you know, like even whether it's New York and it's like this urban jungle, right, or like whether it's like DC and like government buildings and like government agencies, kind of lower buildings, you know, it's just like
it's more eclectic.
right, which I haven't really been to a city like that before.
I'm trying to think.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting. It kind of fit the history that it was all on the river.
You
Though.
know what I will say?
right,
Is
definitely.
when I was backpacking 2 summers ago, I went to Newcastle upon Tyne, which is up north near the end of Hadrian's Wall.
Sure.
And that kind of reminded me kind of similar of Liverpool in a way, because I remember walking through the streets and thinking, man, this is such an interesting combination of buildings.
Right.
Like they have this Millennium
Right.
Bridge, and then they have these really old buildings, and then these other buildings that seem like imperial, and it's a maybe that's just British.
Yeah.
To have
maybe.
these cities
I mean,
that just undergo change after change.
because they have to, right?
And
I mean,
as
you
it
can't just
throws
keep-
on, layer over
Well, he was
layer,
also
there's
talking
still
about
signs of
in
the
the
previous ones.
on the walking tour that like they're about to lose their World Historic Site.
Yeah.
Like,
whatever that
if
government's
they
on.
put that massive hotel there or something.
something like
So
that.
it seems like
yeah.
there's some importance on keeping it historical, but at the same time,
It's almost like a
what's-
contradiction.
yeah, because you have to expand
Right.
as well. So I don't
Yeah,
really
no,
know
that's weird.
what
I didn't
the
really
goal
know
is.
about that. All right.
Do
Well,
you think they should?
I mean, I think you have to, right? It's
They
like,
expand and give up the.
well, I
historical-
don't necessarily, and I'm not a big architecture guy or like city
Or is it just
mapping
money? Is it
guy,
just
but I
money?
just think like eventually you have to hold on to your old history, but like you can't sacrifice what's new in order to hold on to what's old, right?
Yeah, you have to move forward. Like
Right.
you can move forward without intentionally destroying
Right.
history,
Exactly.
but I think
Yeah,
in a
it's not
way
like
it'll
they're-
kind of displace
So it's not
it.
like they're tearing down the old building.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's like even if like buildings go down, it's like that history doesn't necessarily leave.
Yeah.
I think you can still find ways to find ways to honor that, but at the same time, like if you don't,
Like what? Like putting up a sign saying Shakespeare's Globe used to be here.
yeah, I mean
That's
that
it?
help, but I mean no, but like you can like add it into other art, like you can have like museums about it, and like if you really want, I guess what I'm saying is like if you really want to hold on to that part of history, like there are ways to do it other than like we can't knock this building down.
Yeah,
This
and
is
I don't
what
even.
it
Were
is.
they even planning on knocking the building down?
No,
or
they're
they
not
just
planning on
built it?
knocking the
That's
building
that's
down.
the thing that like kind of made me confused.
But
Like,
it's,
they're
So
I mean, it
that-
changes the
yeah.
entire skyline. It changes the entire situation. I don't know
Right.
if-
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
but,
can you
like-
imagine if like Liverpool or not Liverpool, if like London never decided to add a new building? It's like
I know a
who
lot of
knows
people
what would
were
happen.
Yeah,
upset.
like what if
They
they
were
what if they
upset
did
about
build
the
the
shard,
shard?
weren't they?
Yeah, but that's like
Yeah.
such a signature thing here
Right.
now. I mean,
I feel like it's
some
like
people
part
might
of-
not find it that good.
But in like 100 years, like people are gonna be talking about the shard. People are
Yeah.
talking about like 51 Gower Street. You know?
I mean, they might.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, they do still talk about things
Maybe
like
we'll
Big
get our
Ben,
own sign.
Yeah, no.
Which
I know,
is
but
that UNESCO? I mean, like those are just as probably like very similar in importance.
Isn't Big Ben technically the bell though?
Oh,
Joel
yeah.
said that.
And also, it's not the largest clock.
no.
Oh yeah,
That's
that was
a
weird.
Liverpool.
I didn't believe that.
But I mean, those things.
Because that's
it's like,
Just like the
kinda
YMCA
small.
being the
Yeah.
oldest one.
I
in
think
Liverpool.
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, obviously,
And
it's a big
tough.
center. of
There has to be a
debate, right?
balance,
There's a
and
big
that's something
center
that
of
we haven't
debate.
really had to worry that much about
Right.
as a new country.
Right.
Yeah.
But
We'll
you know,
leave it
like
to our kids as kids.
I know in Florence, you're not allowed to build a building taller than the dome of Florence.
Really?
Yeah, like
That's
that's
kinda
a
cool.
fucking
Well, DC's
law.
like that too. You can't build a building that's taller than the Capitol building.
What
Yeah,
about the Washington
and
line?
in some
That's
ways,
what
it
I'm
makes it
saying.
so beautiful. I mean, they don't lose anything. I mean, because number one, tourism is probably one of their biggest.
Yeah, but I feel like Liverpool's a
Residential.
little different than Florence. Like,
It is
Agreed.
because I don't think many people.
Because
really go
Florence
for
is like,
tourism.
and from my understanding, like an art cat, like it's like big on just like the past. It's not big on the past, but it's
It's
history.
big on the Beatles.
Yeah, well that's true.
They exploit that so much.
Yeah, oh man.
I mean,
It's
just-
painful.
All right, we
They-
get it. We get it. The Beatles is from you. We
When
get
I was in
it.
Dubrovnik,
okay.
no, when I was in Dubrovnik, Croatia, they totally cashed in on the Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
Really?
Oh yeah, they're like, oh, this is where they filmed the Red Keep. This is where they filmed all of that, and it's a barrage.
At least that's more
It's-
relevant.
At least the Beatles, yeah, like yeah.
But
Whatever.
I know there's like a town in northern Spain that also is doing the exact same thing because that's where they filmed like where Daenerys Targaryen was,
Sure.
and now the whole town is becoming a
Yeah.
much more successful place because of the tourism industry. But they're also afraid that they're
Yeah.
losing a lot because of it,
Right.
of their identity.
All right.
Previous identity.
Should we close this up? That's kind of like all that we did.
Well,
Good.
what were the other questions that were?
Well, that was the main
We
question.
can
Is
talk about
just,
anything personal.
how's your experience living in the city influence the way you see things? What do you see that relates to your life and work? Kind of touched on that. Please turn on reflections. I mean, I guess if we were just closing up, like obviously it's really different, But I guess we could also talk about some of the similarities, right? Like there are
Also
definitely a lot of
between
similarities.
here and other places that we've traveled in our lives.
Right.
perhaps.
Yeah. I mean, like if you like, obviously they speak English, so that's one similarity.
That is a similarity.
Well, yeah, something interesting I found here in London, like, although they have accents, they're a lot easier to understand than like,
Yeah.
places
Yeah.
like Liverpool.
Or
Oh,
like
Liverpool is
Wales,
tough.
like,
I was
where it's
struggling
just-
in Liverpool.
Yeah.
It's funny how they're not that far away from each other, but just the people themselves are so.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's all I
other
got.
similar-
Yeah.
you know what else is interesting is how quickly things go bad here.
Like food.
Like yeah, like
no, like food. I thought you meant like
talking?
I'm trying to think of similarities, you know, across the spectrum.
Got dark so bad.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I heard they don't use as many preservatives.
Yeah,
so that might be
I
like
bet
an
they use, like,
optimistic view
yeah.
of it.
Like I don't know how I feel about that.
What, the food going bad?
Yeah.
I'd rather
I mean,
buy.
I mean, I'm okay with it just because I'm so close to Tesco, but
Yeah,
if I had to give, you know, like a
that would
10-minute
piss me
drive
off. Yeah.
to
Yeah.
get my groceries, that'd be tough.
Yeah, that is
Real
one
tough.
thing.
Yeah, it'd be hard to prepare it for
Right.
those in advance.
So when you two, I know both of you have actually worked here before in London. So this isn't the first time you've really. This is
Well,
not the first time
I
any of us
haven't
have
worked
really
here
spent a
before.
I just took
considerable amount of time.
classes.
Yeah.
Do
I
you
just take
feel
classes.
do you feel at home here?
I mean, I like it. Like, I definitely, like, I've lived, or I haven't really lived in a lot of cities, but, like, just visiting cities, I like London a lot,
Mhm.
especially being abroad.
It seems navigable.
Right, because I feel like it, like, even when we went to, or when me and TJ went to France for, like, one day, it almost seemed, like, a little bit too foreign. I'm sure would have gotten used to it, but, like, and I'm sure being here last summer helped, too, but it's just, like, I kind of know how the city works. I
Yeah.
feel. Or I don't know
Is
if
it the language that
perfectly-
makes this more?
I mean,
or
that
what?
definitely helps.
Is
I
it
think the
also?
people are
I know,
just
like
more
for me, it might
agreeable.
actually.
But I
I
think
also
we-
inherit it.
I think our culture is more similar to London culture than we think.
Yeah.
That
It probably
like
is.
the little things stand out more.
I think because
Exactly.
Well, I mean, we're
the
their
culture
offspring.
here is so international, and
Right.
the U.S. has like a strong international
like I
culture,
work with
especially
people, yeah.
places
Like
like
I work with people from the States, you know.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
there are two
from
people
the
where I
US
work that are from the States.
Yeah,
One from
so, like,
Boston, one from San
I
Diego.
think it's like not only is the culture relatively similar, but like you're saying, like it's such an international city that like it's not like you're not accepted in other places, but it's just like an accepted thing for people in London to meet people from like Spain or for
Yeah,
them to
yeah.
meet people. It's like they're used to it rather than like if we're going to like a small country in France or like even like Paris, like oh you're from like the States.
It's
like,
an
that's not-
international city for
Right,
sure.
for sure. So I mean, that's also another thing to take away. It's just like the cultural acceptance of others is pretty big in London. I feel.
Yeah, I remember over the summer when we took a day trip to Paris, it was just such a hassle.
Yeah,
Just
that-
the flying and everything, and then getting there and getting harassed
Everything's
constantly by
it's-
people.
Yeah.
When we got back to London, we were basically just like kissing the ground because
Yeah.
it's so much better here in
It
comparison.
is. I mean,
From
yeah.
like the,
Wow.
especially
And-
even the touristy spots here is.
And I mean, I'm sure the language difference plays like a role, but like at the same time, like it's definitely I think the culture plays like a bigger factor.
yeah,
Of just like we're French, like we know what France does. We don't like
yeah,
really like care. Well, like in London, it seems like people like are more interested.
it's more welcoming
Right.
to like outsiders,
Right.
whereas France seems very it's like us versus.
It's like you should be French because you're
Right.
visiting our country. Therefore,
Wow.
you should be like assimilating into our culture. Rather than I feel like in London, like there's just like they're like, all right, whatever, you're American, like you're gonna do American things. Like,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
cool.
So is this the true melting pot?
The true melting pot.
Maybe who knows?
One,
Or
yeah,
tossed salad as they prefer to use now?
What?
Whoa.
Do
We'll
you
end it
have
on
a reason
that. We'll
behind
end it on that. We'll end it on that. We'll end it on that.
No, it's because they still maintain their.
We're ending on that, dude.
Okay, whatever.
Toss salad.